Been about a year since I've done one of these. Mid-year lists of Mid-year list of 2018, where I give the best albums that I've listened to in 2018 thus far. If you haven't heard of them, please go check them out. If you have, these are my opinions. My opinions only. I got 9 albums, which is a shot. 2018 has been a pretty good year for music as far as the quantity that we've gotten, especially within the month of June. I mean, we're still not done getting bodies of work. I'm still waiting on Drake's project to come out next week, but I don't know what. I'm just not anticipating it to be one of the best in 2018. I mean, I hope. One can only hope. And feel free to leave your own lists in the comment section down below. I'm not above checking out your guys' comments and checking out the albums that you like. This is all about trying to listen to like the greatest music possible. So music makes me feel good. I'm assuming it makes you guys feel good. I want to listen to good music just like you want to listen to good music. So don't be afraid to share it around. I'm not going to spend too much time on this first one because I've talked about it. This will be my 4th video talking about the Nasir album. It's good. I like what he has to say. There are some discrepancies with it. If you want to hear those discrepancies, I would go back and check out my final thoughts. And production by Kanye, Confidence, Braggadocious, Nas, as usual, dropping some facts. 7-track EP style album, making for a pretty decent, pretty quick listening experience. He gets in, makes his point, then gets out. Not too much time spent. I'm actually digging these shorter albums and the way these artists are trying to portray or get their message out or get whatever they're trying to get out in as few tracks as humanly possible, in as little time as humanly possible. It's almost as if Kanye was aware of how fast time is moving and how fast people are pretty much forced to go along with that time. So we don't really have time to waste on, you know, really long projects. Some pieces of subject matter I think are appropriate for hour-plus long albums, but some of what they're talking about on these projects, like, you know, Ye and Kid See Ghost and Daytona and, you know, Nasir, I think they get their message across with the little time that they have. Some topics I think they could do a little bit more with, but for the most part, when it comes to Nas and when it comes to Pusha T, that I will be getting to next, I think they do a fairly decent job. So the next album, it has to be Daytona. Daytona is one of the best projects I've listened to in 2018. I didn't know I would be the type to enjoy Pusha T in this style, like in this fashion. Pusha T is another confident street rapper that always finds a way to detail his experiences in the street, usually in the form of drug dealing. I think his delivery is just so cutthroat and cold and just it sinks into your skin like a knife. Like, you don't have a choice but to pay attention to everything that this man is saying. You don't have a choice but to give him like your undivided attention. I find that most of the time with Pusha T's older projects, they did have this sense of confidence. I don't think they had the production to kind of give him the impact that this one did, in my opinion. The Santeria track with that MF Doom style production. The Games We Play is hard from start to finish. You'd swear for a track like that that's only a couple minutes, it was like a full complete song. The intro is hard. The Infrared track is what sparked the whole Drake beef. I just think that the album itself has a lot of impact, and it did a lot, you know, just for Pusha T. The next album is from Flatbush Zombies, Vacation in Hell. Now this one came out, I believe, sometime in April. I might be wrong. The group on this project, I don't feel are as cutthroat, as menacing as they usually are, especially on projects like Better Off Dead. But with the 3001 The Lace Odyssey album, I just felt like they were kind of finding their groove a little bit more in a melodic way, not just such an abrasive kind of we're gonna stomp you out if we see you kind of group. I thought that was kind of the dynamic that I was getting from them a little bit more. And I'm glad to see them in a more thoughtful place with this album. I mean, with Vacation in Hell, it doesn't have as hard, it doesn't have as gritty lyrics or as gritty sounds and production as maybe a Better Off Dead. But one of the saving graces for this album is just how melodically pleasing it is, how sonically pleasing it is, how much attention to detail most of the tracks have. And for most of them to be so long, they don't feel like it. Like M. Bison, or the track where they're tributing all the other classic albums in hip-hop. The lasting track with Denzel Curry. I mean, all of it, for the most part, from start to finish, to me is enjoyable. And while sure, they're not really saying anything that poignant throughout most of the album like they would tote by having their third eye open, I still think majority of it comes across in a decent manner just because of thematically how the project ties itself together, trying to vacation in hell, trying to find the good in the bad, not trying to dwell on all the negatives, just trying to find your place in a place where you have no place, if that makes sense. The next album is Beware, the Book of Eli from Ski Mask to Slump God. Didn't really think I would enjoy this tape as much as I did. I didn't enjoy the You Will Regret mixtape as much. This one, I think that Ski Mask is kind of finding his way a little bit more, finding his mold, his rhythm. He's acknowledging on this tape and through majority of the previous musical endeavors he's gone down that he isn't a rapper that's conscious, but he is very good technically. He is a very good lyrical rapper. He just kind of stays away from the deeper, more impactful, hard-hitting subject matters that kind of take a damper on the sound and the overall feeling and vibe of the music. I mean, he kind of accepts the fact that he's young. He's kind of accepting the fact that he wants to have fun and make catchy music, and there's really nothing wrong with that. I've always appreciated rappers for knowing what group or lane they excel in, and Ski Mask seems to know exactly what he's doing, especially on this new tape. Now, I was aware of the fact that this tape had issues releasing, so there were some tracks that I was supposed to hear included with this tape that I wasn't able to, and after hearing them, I think the track or the album itself is even better. The playlist, the fucking the mixtape. I would love to see what Ski Mask could do with more time, but I think one of the themes of this project was just seeing how much Ski Mask could give to each track in as little time as humanly possible. I mean, some tracks were less than 2 minutes. And I think for Ski Mask, it acts as a challenge to make the track as entertaining as humanly possible without taking up too much time. I mean, he's another artist that kind of exists within that lane of understanding that time is going by and it seems to be going by faster. So, you know, the music can't drag itself out as it used to, especially if you're really not talking about anything that's that impactful or meaningful. His vocal inflections are crazy. His flow is crazy. The next album is Black Panther, all of TDE with the inclusion of a couple others like 2 Chainz and Georgia Smith and Zakari. Now, even though this album does have way too much Kendrick Lamar in my opinion, I still enjoyed it because it has a theme that it sticks to. For most of the tracks, this is basically a soundtrack meant solely for the Black Panther movie. Only issue I really had with that was the fact that most of the songs didn't play in the actual movie, with the exception of the song with The Weeknd and King's Dead, I believe. But other than that, I didn't really hear much of Kendrick in the soundtrack in the movie. That being said, there were a very good amount of tracks on here that just don't really tie into any of the artist's solo material that still work for the body of work itself. I like Kendrick's performance on the intro track, kind of explaining the duality of T'Challa. I especially like 10 with Schoolboy Q and 2 Chainz and Kendrick. Paramedics with SOB XRBE. A lot of people's first introduction to that group, so I definitely am happy that they got a spotlight on this album. A lot more entertaining than a lot of people's solo material that I had been anticipating for months prior. So I thought that this was a good effort, and especially it being a movie soundtrack. I've never heard myself or thought that I'd be returning to a movie soundtrack this frequently. Kali Uchis with Isolation, I really have nothing to say about this project other than her vocals are extremely entertaining. Her song structures are great. I just love how much more confident she seems. She seems to be experimenting with different vocal patterns within this album. I definitely hear her trying to make complete songs. I especially like the track with Steve Lacy. I don't know, it just seems like she's one of the few female R&B singers that understands that you can take your voice to different levels. You don't have to have one boring, uninteresting, low tone, and you also don't have to be trying to hit the high note on every single song either. Another album that I really enjoyed this year was the JPEGMAFIA project Veteran. I really think that these off-the-wall experimental albums that really test the water but still kind of maintain a vibe of hip-hop are interesting. I find more interest in them like every time I hear one. And with JPEGMAFIA, it doesn't really just come across as some guy trying to use and no offense to like Death Grips or their fan base, because I'm not trying to use this as a comparison. I'm literally just saying this right now. It doesn't feel like he's trying to use the excuse of it being a loud and crazy album or trying to define himself as this madman. It just comes across like he's giving the finger to the world. It's like go into your college dorm room and you see a guy bumping all these instruments and he says, "Fuck you, get out." I think the album can exist in a lot of different areas. One of my main complaints about the album was, after multiple listens, just hearing how it didn't feel like JPEGMAFIA was as outgoing as some of the instrumentals, and I felt like a lot of the production really tested a lot of waters, and it really it was an adjustment for your ears for the most part. Whereas Peggy just kind of comes off as, you know, a regular rapper. But as I kept listening to it, one of the things that kind of drew me more to it was the fact that I felt like I was listening to a regular guy in between a bunch of chaos. He's so sarcastic on this album. By the end of it, you're just looking at him with the "you bitch" kind of vibe. Next album I thought was incredible by Saba, called Care For Me. It came out earlier this year, I believe, at the end. I'm terrible with the album dates. He released a great project detailing the story of his cousin Walt as they're trying to get on. He details how they came up together, how they barely knew each other, ended up becoming friends. Just a testament to how you have to get to know your family as well before you associate with them on that personal level and become friends with them as well. Everything is a learning experience and a learning process, and he really details this as he's going through chastising himself, going through survivor's guilt, as he's talking about relationships with women, his cousin and family, his father, his grandfather. All of it shows up in this album. His relationship with Chicago. There's so much depth in a lot of this album. It can almost seem like a feature on his own song by how much he changes the way he speaks and the way he might sing or the way he might rap. And tie that into the fact that that track Prom King is one of the most heart-wrenching singles I've ever heard. And the final album is Beerbongs and Bentleys from Post Malone. I really enjoyed this project. Didn't expect it to be as catchy as it was. Didn't expect it to have the impact that it did when it comes to the records that it sold first week. I'm happy for Post Malone. There was a good amount of this album that I just wasn't into because of lack of entertaining subject matter, like the track with YG and G-Eazy. I get how that's supposed to be a tribute to how a lot of the girls in the area of California or LA are the same, but it just didn't do anything. But most of the album hits. Like, most of Post Malone's swings are hits on this project. When we go to Better Now, Zach and Codeine. He also had, I believe, Rockstar on this album, which was a given. The last 3 tracks, there's really just not a break in this album where you go too long without getting another infectious banger. Even if there is a song here that isn't a banger, like Stay, the singing is just so clear and crisp. How could you hate it? Yeah, Post hit the ball out of the park with that one. I'm gonna say that's it for right now. Those are the albums that I find myself returning to the most in 2018. But as I said in the beginning of the video, please feel free to leave your comments in the comment section. Where else would they leave them, you fucking idiot? Feel free to leave them in the comment section down below and let me know what you've been listening to as far as albums and complete bodies of work. I'm excited to listen to something new. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. This is the mid-year list for 2018. Best albums I've heard so far. And I'll see you next time. I'm out. Peace. Most enjoyable albums. I'll switch that.